AITA for fixing everything after my wife stole our son's college fund and ran away. 2 days later, she called me screaming, panicked after discovering what he had done. I'll never forget the day my world fell apart. It had started as an ordinary Tuesday. Work emails were scrolling by, Eli was pretending to do his homework, and the familiar gurgle of the Keurig filled the room. Nothing out of the ordinary. No warning sign of the storm to come. If I had known, maybe I would have done things differently. But some disasters are simply inevitable. I was sitting in the living room, going over our accounts on my laptop, when an alert popped up. Your balance has dropped below the minimum threshold. Strange. Eli's 529 college fund was more than healthy, the result of years of disciplined saving for his future. Meredith and I had sworn never to touch it. We didn't even talk about it anymore because it was so sacred, or so I believed. I logged in, thinking it was a mistake, a glitch perhaps. Banks make them all the time. But no. The truth hit me like a speeding train. The account was empty. Not low, empty. Zero. Not a single trace of any transaction. I stared at the screen in disbelief, praying it was a bad joke. Meredith. I called out, my voice trembling. Silence. Meredith. Nothing. Only emptiness answered. She was gone. That's when I felt that sinking feeling in my stomach, the kind of dizziness that comes before a fall. For the past few weeks, Meredith had been different, distant, overly dressed up for simple errands to Target, and always offering vague excuses. I had chalked it up to stress. I never would have imagined this. I grabbed my phone and got her voicemail. I called again and again, with no luck. My heart was pounding, each beat echoing like a drum. Eli walked into the living room, munching on an apple, completely unaware of the chaos. Where's Mom? I asked, trying to stay calm. He shrugged. She said she had to go out. Go out. The words pierced me. With trembling hands, I opened our joint credit card statement. I knew I wouldn't like what I saw, but I couldn't stop myself. And there it was, all laid out. Plane tickets to Miami, a luxury hotel on South Beach, a 5-star restaurant. My wife was on the other side of the country, spending the money meant for our son's future. I tried not to break down in front of Eli, but it was too much. How could she? How could she steal from our own child? Yes, we argued sometimes, but this was unforgivable. Eli looked at me with his calm eyes and put his hand on my shoulder. Dad, it's no big deal, he said in an almost conspiratorial tone. I've already handled it. I thought he was just trying to comfort me. Kids don't understand the weight of betrayal, the loss, the shame. For them, everything is simple. Good guys, bad guys, problems, solutions. But something in his voice unsettled me, as if he knew more than he was letting on. I didn't have the strength to investigate. I kept calling her, to no avail. Later, I opened the closet. Her large suitcase was gone. The final blow, she wasn't coming back. She had cleared out the account, taken her things, and abandoned her family. Anger rose in waves, getting stronger and stronger. I wasn't just furious with her, but with myself. How could I have been so blind? Every transaction, every lie, replayed in my mind like a cruel film. Eli stayed silent all evening, watching me with that strange serenity. When he went to bed, I was left alone in the dark, searching for answers. All that remained was a gaping hole where trust used to be, and a pain so deep it threatened to swallow me whole. I wish I could say that in that moment, I came up with a plan, a direction. But I didn't. I just faced the cold, hard truth. The woman I loved had chosen to leave, and there was no turning back. What I didn't know was that while I was sinking, Eli was already working on a solution, one I could have never imagined. The days following Meredith's betrayal were a blur. I was on autopilot, running on anger, confusion, and heartbreak. Eli, on the other hand, seemed unfazed, too calm, almost unnervingly so for a 10-year-old boy abandoned by his mother. He went to school, did his homework, and played with his Legos as if nothing had happened. I thought he was in shock. Children process trauma differently. But no, Eli wasn't running from reality. He was solving it. It started subtly. I would catch him typing frantically on his tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. The moment he saw me, he'd close the screen. Just my homework, Dad. I didn't think much of it. He had always been gifted with technology, coding, games, all of it. Then came the hushed phone calls. One night, I found him in the kitchen with the phone to his ear. "Who are you talking to?" I asked. He jumped. No one." He slipped the device into his pocket and walked away. I didn't press him. Maybe it was a friend or even the school counselor, I told myself. Everyone deals with pain in their own way. Then there was the garage. Eli started spending hours in there, tinkering with tools and wires. I assumed it was another one of his little engineering projects, a robot, a miniature plane, the kind of stuff he loved. Until one evening, my curiosity got the better of me. I went in to take a look and froze. A whiteboard was covered in diagrams, equations, and complex schematics worthy of a spy movie. Next to it, a laptop scrolled with lines of code. Eli was hunched over the workbench, soldering what looked like a listening device. When he saw me, he jumped and tried to hide the board with his small body. "What is all this?" I asked, stunned. "Nothing, Dad. It's a school project." His answer was too quick, too defensive. "A project? Since when do fifth graders build surveillance equipment?" He blushed. I thought he was going to confess, but he just shrugged. "You wouldn't understand." He put his tools away and left the room. I stood there, staring at the whiteboard, my heart pounding. Whatever he was planning, it wasn't a school assignment or a simple hobby. The following days grew even stranger. Eli started asking very specific questions about Meredith's finances. Did she have other accounts? Do you know her passwords? Do you know what an offshore investment is? At first, I thought it was just curiosity, but I soon realized he was gathering information. "Why do you want to know all this?" I asked. "No reason, just an idea," he replied without looking up from his tablet. "Eli, tell me the truth. This isn't normal. If something is worrying you, talk to me." He looked up, his expression unreadable. "I already told you, Dad. I'm fixing things. You'll see." That night, I didn't sleep a wink. Fixing what? I considered confronting him, but something held me back. Maybe it was exhaustion, or maybe an irrational part of me wanted to believe he knew what he was doing. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen, hunched over the computer. He hadn't even noticed me. His fingers were flying across the keyboard with an assurance I'd never seen in a 10-year-old. "Eli," I said softly. He froze. "Yeah, Dad." I wanted to ask him what he was up to, but the words got stuck. "Breakfast is ready," I said simply before leaving. Today, I know I should have pushed, demanded answers, but a part of me didn't want to know. A part of me was afraid of what he might tell me. In the days that followed, the secret grew heavier. Eli never let go of his tablet, kept the garage locked, and hid the whiteboard under a sheet. And just as I was starting to convince myself that this was all harmless, Meredith called. It was late afternoon. My phone vibrated on the countertop. I was leaning against the sink, staring into space, still trying to piece my life back together. Eli, as usual, was in the living room, absorbed in his screen. When I saw her name flash, I froze. Meredith. My first instinct was to let it ring. Why answer? What could she possibly say to justify what she'd done? But curiosity won. Against my better judgment, I answered. "What do you want?" I snapped, my voice cold. "Nathan," she sobbed, her voice trembling. "Oh my God. Nathan, you have to help me." The audacity of her request burned inside me. "Help you? You emptied your son's savings and ran off with your lover. Why would I help you? Please, just listen to me. Everything's gone wrong. Something's not right." I gripped the counter to keep from swaying. "What are you talking about?" "It's Cole," she cried. "He's gone. Just vanished overnight. All his cards are blocked. Mine too. I can't access anything, Nathan. And now the police are looking for me." The words hit me, but instead of pity, I felt a cold, remorseless satisfaction. I wanted to ask her how it felt to be trapped, helpless, and abandoned. But I remained silent. "Nathan, I'm begging you. I don't know what's happening. I'm stuck in Miami with no money, no ID. Cole was supposed to handle everything, and now he's disappeared." "A real gentleman," I said sarcastically. She didn't even react, consumed by her own panic. "I swear, Nathan, I didn't want this to happen." "You didn't want this?" I exploded. "You stole from your own son. You abandoned your family for a guy who dumped you the second he got what he wanted. Is that what you didn't want?" Silence. Only her ragged breathing on the other end of the line. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "A mistake?" "No, Meredith. A cruel, selfish choice, and now you're paying the price. Please, Nathan, I have nothing left. I don't know what to do. I need you. I was about to respond when Eli appeared in the doorway, holding his tablet. Who is it? He asked, as if he didn't already know. I muted the call. It's your mother. His face darkened for a second. Then he put on that same calm, almost conspiratorial smile. Put it on speaker, Eli ordered. Trust me, Dad. Speaker. There was something in his voice. It wasn't a request, it was a command. I obeyed without understanding why. I pressed the button and set the phone on the counter. Meredith, I said harshly, you're on speaker. Eli's listening. We heard her sharp intake of breath. Eli, sweetie, it's Mommy. Spare us the drama, he replied in an icy voice. Don't say that, Eli, please. I know I hurt you, that I made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake, he interrupted. You betrayed us, you stole my future, and now you're calling for help. Pathetic. I stared at him, stunned. This was no longer the voice of a 10-year-old boy, but that of someone much older, much darker. Eli, she stammered, her voice trembling. I'm your mother. I love you. You don't love anyone, he cut in. If you loved us, you wouldn't have left. You wouldn't have stolen from us. You chose Qley. Deal with it. I have no sympathy for you. Eli, I'm begging you, she cried in tears. Help me. He offered a smile, a cold, confident smile that chilled me to the bone. Relax, Mom, he said calmly. I've already helped you. What? She asked, confused. Let's just say Qley won't be hurting anyone anymore. And neither will you. The line went dead. I just stood there looking at Eli, my brain short-circuiting. What did you do? I whispered. He looked up, serene, almost proud. I told you, Dad. I fixed everything. At that moment, I didn't know whether to feel pride, fear, or complete confusion. My calm, 10-year-old son had just silenced his panicked mother with a sentence that sent a shiver down my spine. 1,000 wild theories raced through my mind. What had he done? He was just a kid. No, Eli, what do you mean? I fixed everything. What did you do? He shrugged as if we were discussing math homework. Just what I said, Dad. Now Mom and Qley can't hurt us anymore. I felt my stomach clench. Eli, this isn't a joke. You need to tell me exactly what you did. He sighed like an adult exasperated by a curious child and gestured for me to follow him into the living room. Okay, come on, I'll show you. We sat down on the couch. He opened his tablet. The screen filled with graphs, bank statements, and lines of code. My heart pounded as he explained, calmly and methodically, as if he were giving a school presentation. Remember how Mom emptied the college fund? Well, if she could take the money out, I could put it back in. I was speechless as I watched a series of transactions scroll by. The $50,000 Meredith had stolen was back in the account, not just returned, but reinvested with a logic that was beyond me. How did you do that? I stammered. Easy, he said. Mom wasn't careful with her passwords. I used the ones saved on her phone to get into Qley's account too. He was just as sloppy. Eli, that's illegal, I protested. So is stealing from your own son, right? He shot back with a shrug. But that was only the beginning. He scrolled down the page and showed me more. Qley had a bunch of accounts in his name, he explained. I found out he's been scamming people for years. Shell corporations, fake investments. I sent everything to the police, along with the proof. You reported Qley? I breathed. Yep, he confirmed, without flinching. And I made sure the trail led back to Mom, too. She benefited from the money, so she's part of the plan. Eli, do you realize what you've done? You didn't just get the money back. You've put your mother in serious trouble. She got herself into this, he replied harshly. She chose Qley. Why should I feel sorry for her? I didn't know what to say. He was right. Meredith had betrayed us in the worst possible way. But hearing those words come out of my son's mouth with such coldness broke my heart. And Qley? I asked, dreading the answer. Oh, he's doing just fine for now. No money, nowhere to hide. The police have frozen everything. When they find him, he'll be broke and in prison. The ease with which he said it, as if ruining a life was nothing, chilled me. Eli, why didn't you tell me anything? Why didn't you let me handle this? He looked at me, his expression suddenly softening. Because I knew you wouldn't do anything. You would have let her get away with it because you're too nice. Someone had to stop her, Dad. Someone had to protect our family. I felt like the floor was giving way beneath my feet. My son, this sweet, brilliant boy, had not only fixed our situation, but had taken revenge in a way I never could have imagined. I didn't know if I was proud of his genius or terrified of what he was becoming. Eli, I murmured after a long silence. I'm not sure this was the right way to handle things. Maybe not, he replied calmly, but it worked. I sank into the couch, my head in my hands. I didn't know what to think or what to feel. My son had done what I couldn't. He had taken control of a desperate situation and turned the tables. But at what cost? Eli closed his tablet and stared at me with that calm, unsettling gaze. Relax, Dad. Everything's going to be okay now. I looked at him, unable to shake the feeling that nothing was okay at all. I barely slept that night. The images played on a loop in my head. My 10-year-old son had executed a chillingly precise plan, clever enough to ruin 2 adults, and he showed no signs of remorse. I promised myself I'd talk to him about it the next morning, but life had other plans. The phone rang again. Meredith. My first instinct was to ignore it. What more could she say to change anything? And yet, a masochistic part of me needed to hear it. What? I barked without any politeness. Nathan, please, she sobbed. I need your help. I'm begging you. Her voice was unrecognizable. The confident woman who had walked out of our lives without a backward glance was gone. All that remained was a desperate, broken wreck. You've got a lot of nerve calling, I said, my voice like ice. Listen to me, Nathan, please. The police are after me. They've frozen all my accounts. Cole vanished, just disappeared. I'm trapped, with no money, nowhere to go. And whose fault is that? I cut in sharply. Nathan, I know I messed everything up. I know I hurt you and Eli, but I don't deserve this, not to be left with nothing. I let out a bitter laugh. You drained your son's college fund, ran off with your lover, and now you're crying because the consequences caught up with you. You deserve every second of what's happening to you, Meredith. Silence. Just her trembling breath on the other end. I didn't think it would go this far, she murmured. No, of course not. You were too busy having fun with Cole to think about what you were leaving behind. You've made your bed, now lie in it. She burst into hysterical sobs. Nathan, I'm begging you, help me. I have no one left. I clenched my jaw. No one left? How dare you? After everything you've done, you still have the audacity to play the victim. I can't do anything for you. Don't say that, she cried out. You can talk to the police, tell them Cole organized everything. Oh, right? Lie to save you, just like last time? I cut her off. No, Meredith, I'm done cleaning up your messes. Nathan, she sobbed, her voice broken. If not for me, then do it for Eli. That was the last straw. Don't you even say his name. I growled in a dangerous tone. You don't have the right to play the concerned mother now. You made your choice the day you abandoned us. I'm sorry. I just wanted to be happy. Happy. I spat with contempt. Stealing from your son and running off with a lowlife. Is that your idea of happiness? Perfect. Then enjoy the consequences. Silence. Then a broken whisper. So that's it. You're just going to leave me here. I almost laughed at the irony. You left us first. And no, Meredith, I'm not abandoning you. I'm just letting you face the chaos you created. I hung up before she could reply. When I turned around, Eli was there, standing in the doorway, watching me with that almost robotic calm. You didn't help her, did you? I didn't say anything, feeling drained. He nodded, satisfied, as if it were the only acceptable answer. She doesn't deserve help, he added simply. I wanted to explain that things weren't that simple, that despite everything, a part of me couldn't rejoice in her suffering. But when I met that steely gaze, I knew he wouldn't understand, or worse, that he'd understand all too well. Eli, I said, weighing each word. What you're doing, the way you're thinking, it's not normal. A 10-year-old shouldn't think like this. I'm not a normal 10-year-old, he replied simply. I was left speechless, and I knew he was right. Because I had learned one thing. People like Cole don't just disappear without a fight. They strike back, they bite before they go down. And that's exactly what happened. It all started with a phone call. Not from Meredith. I had blocked her. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered, thinking it was the police who had finally found Cole. Nathan, a deep, venomous voice said. You think you're so smart, don't you? I froze. Cole, I said coldly. Shouldn't you be on the run? On the run because of you and your brat, he sneered. You think you can ruin my life and just walk away? I glanced toward the living room. Eli was assembling a small model airplane, calm and unbothered. You got what you deserved, I retorted. You stole from my family. Now you're paying the price. You have no idea what you've started, he growled. You think this is over? This is just the beginning. And what are you going to do, Cole? I replied, weary. You're broke, hunted, finished. His voice turned icy. Maybe, but I'm not going down alone. I know where you live, Nathan. I know where your son goes to school. If you think I'm going to sit back while you destroy my life, you are dead wrong. The blood froze in my veins. This wasn't an empty threat. Cole was many things, a liar, a thief, a coward, but not one to make idle threats. Don't you come near my son, I said, my voice trembling despite myself. Or what? You gonna sick your little hacker on me again? Go ahead. I'd love to see you try. I hung up before he could continue. My hands were shaking as I put the phone down. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what had just happened. Who was that? Eli asked in a terrifyingly calm tone. Cole, I replied, turning to him. He knows what you did, and now he's threatening us. Eli didn't even blink. I figured he would, he said simply. His tone was so cold it gave me chills. Eli, this isn't a game, I insisted, kneeling in front of him. This man is dangerous. We have to call the police. No, he said flatly. The police only act when it's too late. I'll handle it. Eli, this isn't your job. You're a child, you can't. His gaze cut me off. It wasn't the look of a frightened child, but of a boy who had already made his decision and wasn't going to back down. That night, Eli disappeared into the garage again and locked the door behind him. I no longer had the strength to stop him. I paced the living room, replaying Cole's words over and over. Every noise outside made me jump. Every shadow seemed like a threat. It wasn't until after midnight that Eli reappeared. He looked exhausted but satisfied. A faint smile played on his lips. It's done, he said simply. What's done? I asked, my throat tight. He handed me the tablet. My heart sank as I read the screen. He had tracked Cole's location using a GPS spoofing program, hacked his burner phone, and recorded every one of his threats. To top it off, he had sent an anonymous tip to the police with all the evidence needed to get him arrested. Eli, I stammered, torn between shock and admiration. Do you realize what you've just done? I stopped him, he answered calmly. Now he can't hurt us. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe it would all end there, that Cole would be arrested, and that we would finally be safe. But deep down, I knew better. Guys like Cole never give up. And sure enough, the next morning, a shattering noise jolted me out of bed. A cinder block had just smashed through the living room window. Attached to it was a note, scrawled in anger. This isn't over. Eli picked it up before I could, read the message, crumpled it up, and threw it in the trash without a word. Eli, I said cautiously, maybe we should leave for a while. Go somewhere safe until this blows over. No need to run, Dad, he replied in an even voice. I have one last move to play. My heart raced. A last move? What do you mean? He gave a thin, icy smile. You'll see. Worry not at me. You'll see. He said it as if this whole mess was just a chess game he intended to win. But for me, it was no longer a game. That night, I stayed up patching the broken window with cardboard, imagining that the next projectile might be much worse. 2 days passed in tense silence. Eli went about his routine as if nothing were wrong. School, meals, tablet, but I could see the gears turning behind his eyes. I didn't dare ask him what his plan was. Maybe if I stayed out of it, I could pretend my 10-year-old son wasn't waging a digital war against a grown criminal. Then it happened. Late that night, the doorbell rang. My stomach twisted into a knot. No one had come to our door since the cinder block incident. Eli looked up from his tablet. Don't open it, I whispered instinctively. He didn't answer. He got up, looked through the peephole, and, without a shred of hesitation, swung the door wide open. Cole stood there, larger than life and twice as furious. His face was twisted with hatred, his eyes bloodshot. He looked nothing like the charming man in the photos with Meredith. This version of him oozed rage and madness. Where is he? He growled, stepping over the threshold uninvited. I stepped between them, my heart pounding. You need to leave, I said in a firm voice. He sneered. Not until your brat explains to me how he destroyed my life. To my horror, Eli calmly stepped forward, arms crossed, and looked up at him. You destroyed it yourself, he replied, unfazed. Cole's jaw tightened. Listen here, you little. You're broke, Eli interrupted in a sharp tone. Wanted in 3 states, and now you're here threatening a child and his father. Brilliant. I tried to grab his arm, but he pulled away. Eli, stop, I hissed. He didn't budge. You shouldn't have come here, he said, his voice glacial. You're only making things worse for yourself. Cole let out a hoarse laugh. Worse? Kid, I've got nothing left to lose. You're wrong, Eli replied with a thin smile. Before I could process what was happening, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a strange little device. He pressed a button. Cole's phone started buzzing. The man frowned as he saw several files appear on his screen. What? What is this crap? He growled. Evidence, Eli answered. His eyes scanned the tablet. Confusion gave way to panic. Proof that you are an ongoing threat, Eli. Every message, every call, every intimidation, you left a trail. And now, the police have everything. Cole's face turned red. You're bluffing. Eli tilted his head slightly. You think so? That's when I understood. Eli hadn't just gathered evidence. He had set a trap. Cole's phone wasn't just receiving files. It was transmitting a live feed to the local police. My son had turned a criminal's threats into a recorded confession. Cole lunged, mad with rage. But before he could take a step, the wail of sirens filled the street. Eli didn't move. They're coming for you, he said calmly. Cole froze, then glanced out the window. The flashing red and blue lights illuminated the front of the house. He turned back to Eli, wavering between anger and panic. This isn't over. Yes, Eli replied in an icy voice. It is. Seconds later, the door burst open. Police officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Cole tried to resist. He knew it was the end of the line. I stood there, petrified, as they took him away. Eli, however, remained motionless, his face unreadable. I told you I had one last move to play, he murmured. Do you realize how dangerous that was? I said, my voice shaking. He could have hurt you, hurt both of us. But he didn't, he replied calmly. And now he's gone. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him understand that none of this was normal. But all I could do was stare at my 10-year-old son, the one who had just beaten an adult criminal at his own game. He looked up at me, tired but serene. It's over, Dad. We're safe. I watched the police car drive away into the night, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Nothing, absolutely nothing, was truly safe. The house became terribly quiet after Cole's arrest. The threat, the fear, it all seemed to have vanished, but the silence wasn't comforting. The air was heavy, saturated with questions I wasn't sure I wanted the answers to. I thought this was the end, that Cole was out of our lives, that Eli would go back to his routine, and that I could finally start picking up the pieces. But that's when Meredith called again. I recognized her number immediately. I had blocked it. She must have found another way to reach me. I hesitated to answer. What more could she possibly say? Curiosity eventually won. I picked up. Now what? I said, colder than ice. Her voice was barely a whisper, hoarse and faint, like someone who hadn't slept in days. Nathan. No need to whine. I cut her off. If you're calling to ask for money or forgiveness, save your breath. I don't want your money, she said weakly. I don't even know what I want anymore. For the first time since this nightmare began, there was no arrogance, no act, just a broken woman. Then why are you calling? I'm in real trouble, Nathan. Oh, really? You don't say. I replied sarcastically. The police, they're investigating me. They think I was part of Cole's scams. And you weren't. I prodded. She hesitated. At first, I didn't know what he was doing. By the time I figured it out, it was too late. I was already involved. And now they're freezing my accounts. They're seizing my assets. I have nothing left, Nathan. Then we're even, I retorted. Or did you forget you drained Eli's college fund to finance your little adventure? I was stupid, she admitted, her voice breaking. I thought Cole loved me, that he would take care of me. I let out a bitter laugh. And how's that great love working out for you? The silence that followed said more than any excuse could. Why did you call me, Meredith? I asked, calmer but still firm. Because you and Eli are all I have left. Those words struck me, not with affection, but as a pathetic delusion. You don't have us anymore, I said coldly. You lost us the day you chose Cole. Nathan, I'm begging you, she sobbed. I made a mistake, but I'm still Eli's mother. Give me a second chance. A second chance. I repeated, incredulous. This wasn't some small slip-up, Meredith. You stole from your son, you abandoned us for a stranger. And now that your fairy tale is crumbling, you want to come back? Out of the question. She was crying, but I wouldn't budge. Nathan, I have nowhere to go. That's your problem, I said flatly. Please, at least do it for Eli. Don't count on it. Eli doesn't need you. He's done more for this family in 2 weeks than you have in a lifetime. We don't need you. Silence. Then a barely audible breath. So that's it. You're turning your back on me. You turned your back on us first, I replied. Now you're reaping what you sowed. Nothing more. Just her trembling breath before the line went dead. I turned around. Eli was there, standing in the doorway, impassive. Was that Mom? He asked. I nodded. Did she want to come back? Yes. And I said no. He nodded, satisfied. Good. She doesn't deserve it. I wanted to tell him that forgiveness was part of healing, but seeing that icy certainty in his eyes, I swallowed my words. Maybe he was right. Some things are simply unforgivable. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about everything Eli had done. It was impossible not to admire his brilliance. A 10-year-old boy who had dismantled a criminal operation, saved his family from ruin, and kept his cool as if he were playing a chess game only he could see. Impressive, without a doubt, but also terrifying. Eli didn't react like a child. There was no fear or hesitation, only calculation, strategy, and execution. And behind it all, a coldness that chilled me to the bone. One night, as I sat on the couch staring at the piece of cardboard that still covered the broken window, he walked in. Dad, are you mad at me? He asked, catching me off guard. Mad at you? What? For what I did to Mom, to Cole, for not telling you everything. I sighed. Eli, what you did is not something a 10-year-old should do. No one should, really. But I did it, he replied without wavering. And it worked. Yes, but it's not just about whether it worked. It's about what it means. He frowned. What does it mean? That it wasn't healthy. You should never have had to think that way, or act that way. You're just a kid. I did what had to be done. If I hadn't done it, who would have stopped them? I wanted to tell him that it was my job to do it, that it was my role as a father, but I knew he was right. I had been frozen in pain and anger, and he had filled that void, which was the most painful part of all. You're brilliant, Eli, I admitted. Far more than I'll ever be. But you're still my son. It's my job to protect you, not the other way around. He searched my eyes for something. And what if you can't? What if it's up to me? I had no answer. He had already saved us. But at what cost? Weeks passed. Life tried to return to normal. Cole was behind bars, Meredith consumed by her own troubles. The house was finally quiet, a fragile piece, as thin as glass ready to shatter. One afternoon, I found Eli in the garage, hunched over a sophisticated drone, surrounded by neatly organized wires and circuits. Hey, Dad, he said with a smile, not looking up. I leaned against the doorframe. Still building something? I like it. It keeps my mind busy. That's good, I said softly. But you don't have to fix everything all the time. Sometimes it's okay to just let things be. He soldered one last wire, then set down his soldering iron and looked me straight in the eye. I don't know how to do that. Do what? Let things be broken. If something's wrong, I have to fix it. That's just how my brain works. I wanted to tell him it wasn't his burden to carry, but it would have been pointless. Eli saw the world differently. End of story. You have a gift, I acknowledged, but it's also a responsibility. You'll have to choose how to use it and who to trust. I know, he murmured thoughtfully. I stood there for a moment, my heart torn between pride and fear. Genius is a double-edged sword. It can build or it can destroy. I just prayed that as he grew up, he would choose to build. That night, lying in bed, I thought back to Meredith's last words. You've raised a son who doesn't just survive, Nathan. He conquers. But be careful. Someday, his heart might become too cold to be saved. I didn't want to believe it, but the seed had been planted. Eli wasn't just a survivor. He was a force of nature. And while pride swelled within me, I feared that his limitless genius might one day lead him down paths where I could no longer follow. For now, we finally had peace, and I would do whatever